Just 10 beats.
10 beats is all you need.
That's what I always say that.
This is the Epic New Podcast, Two Idiots and a List, where you're going to get two idiots and a list. And now, coming to you live from Circle Avenue Studios, your hosts, Nick Fasolo and Keurig McMillan.
Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of Two Idiots and a List. Today we are going to talk about Phil Collins and Genesis. Phil had an extensive career both on his own and with the band Genesis. These guys put out a tremendous amount of music. I'm here today, as always, with my co-host Nicholas Fasolo.
Yeah, thanks, Keurig. I'm super excited today for not only Phil Collins, but Genesis also. You want to talk about a storied career, a long career too. Not only with Genesis, but Phil Collins solo stuff too. And it's not just the music and, the fact that he was separating his time from two band, his band and Genesis, but the man's personal life, it's
there's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot to get to today. So let's jump right into it. So today we're trying to condense all of Phil Collins' solo work and his work with Genesis. So it's almost 45, almost 50 years of music.
This was a challenge for me.
Yeah,
This was a challenge.
It was. I mean, right off the top of my head, I was like, God damn, I've got like 15 songs already. I'm like, and they're good tunes. So we're going to try to condense them down to a five-song list for each one of us. And I had a lot of trouble with this one too. I had trouble sleeping.
Odd things keep you up at night.
Yes, they do.
As we structure this, or as we have structured this, let's begin with the honorable mention.
Yeah, I could have had like 17 honorable mentions. There's
totally
so many. But then I came to a realization that I think I'll crystallize it at the end. But I think that we'll come to it as we go. But my first honorable, or my only honorable mention is the song Abacab off of Abacab. I remember this song distinctly. This might have been my realization of there is this band called Genesis and this song is Abacab and I really, really like it. And it was right around the time, we were one of the first, homes to get cable, and of course MTV came into our homes, I think in August of 91. And this is one of the very first videos that I remember distinctly. There wasn't anything magical about the video. It was just the three goofs on a lighted stage, but it was all of the pieces fit together. Even who's the keyboardist? Tony Banks. Yeah, right. His whole solo in that thing. I remember sitting at my desk in 5th grade, being yelled at by the teacher, to stop fiddling around at my desk because I was doing Tony Banks's piano solo from this song, and I'm sure that kind of set the stage for the rest of my junior high and high school careers. Who's the fucking weirdo over there?
Well, and these guys were early in the birth of MTV.
Yes,
MTV was looking for material from any band that was as established as Genesis was, and I think, from what I saw, and I don't recall, we didn't have cable, so I didn't get a lot of MTV unless I was over at a buddy's house. So I don't remember the videos terribly well myself. That said, the stuff that I found when I was looking into the band, a lot of it indicated that these guys would just take footage of them playing on a stage. And MTV was thrilled with it because Genesis was so well established that they were able to get a video from a band that people knew, and they could use that for material.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is a whole different, area of a podcast, but I mean, MTV would take fucking anything. That's why so many bands from Europe made it over to MTV, because in Europe, it was a thing. That's how you promoted your music. You would make a video. They were rudimentary videos, but MTV is looking for, things to fill 24-hour music video channel with. No American bands were doing it, and all the Euro bands had done it. They're like, shit, we'll just put him on. Adam Ant, I don't know who the fuck that is. Put him on there. He looks crazy. Culture Club, and so you got this whole new wave of culture and texture and art and everything into the American bloodstream through MTV, because a European band like Genesis already had this shit done. They were pretty groovy with it. They were all over, and this song in particular was one that really just stuck out for me.
So this is actually my number 2.
Really?
When I think of Genesis, I think of this song. And when we talked about doing Genesis, the first song that popped into my mind was Abacab. And I don't know why that's the case, but when I think of Genesis, I think of the edginess of that song and how the keys interact and how the rhythm, there's just something about it.
Yeah, the chattering keyboard is like another percussion instrument. Phil Collins's drums are like fully in front of this song.
Right, and they got that kind of guitar keyboard breakdown in the middle of the song, and then it runs into the next verse with this sort of sampled vocal repeating behind Phil's lyrics as he's singing. There's this like doot 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 kind of sound thing. I always dug the sound of this song. One of my complaints about it is it gets a little long in the tooth at the end.
Oh, that's what the fade out button is for.
That's right. And I was always under the impression that it was called Abacab because it was written in the keys of A, B, and C, when in fact it was called Abacab because as they wrote it, they put it into sections. They said, all right, this is section A. And then they went into the next part and they said, this is section B and this is section C. And as they were writing the plan out for the song, Abacab ended up on some whiteboard somewhere, a chalkboard most likely given the time. But they had this Abacab. Now, it was either Banks or Mike Rutherford or maybe Collins, I don't remember. One of them came back and they said it's actually a erroneous title because the end of or the actual layout turns out to be like A B A C A B U Z Z B A. Right. It ends up with multiple sections, but I thought that was kind of interesting. I was always under the impression that it was due to the key of the song, but it is. I thought it
was the chord progression, and then as I just fucking around on my guitar, I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. It doesn't even sound like the song. So it's definitely not A, B, A. And then I read that the same thing, it's the sections of the song. It's like, oh, that makes more sense. Like, yeah, I get it. All right, so your honorable mention.
My honorable mention is No Reply at All. I like this song for a variety of reasons. Phil used the horn section from Earth, Wind, and Fire.
The Phoenix Horns.
The Phoenix Horns, exactly. Used his horn section from Earth, Wind, and Fire on his first solo album. And when Genesis did this song, he said, let's do that again. And to me, every aspect of this song works. There's not... I mean, the Phoenix Horns are amazing, but they don't.
That's the whole song.
They do, but if you listen to the bass line and how it complements the horns as they play, it just kind of brings them highlights what they're doing. And then they have the keys and guitar adding this texture that kind of fills out the song, while the bass and the horns go back and play intermittent strokes of music or bouncing around off of each other. I think it's a great song. It has Phil Collins' fingerprints all over it. This could be a solo song from Collins and end up on one of his albums on his own.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of all the work that Genesis did in the 80s? It's like Phil Collins' side project to his solo career, and it's like they're like, Mike and Tony are like, hey, Phil, can we do another album? I think that we could, can we do one more? And it's like, sure, come on, lads, let's go. Well, I'll come off the bench and throw a 60-yard bomb for you. And that's what he does. Like, that's all he does. He comes out and just fucking launches. He's a playmaker. I can't stand that fucking song, but the horns alone are worth it. Like when the intro to the horns is over, I turn it off. But yeah, that's those Phoenix horns. Did you? In a little preparation for the pod, I kind of did a little deep dive on the Phoenix horns. One of those dudes was shot dead by the LAPD in 1993. And then later, not Phil Collins, but I'm sure his management group ended up suing the Phoenix Horns for royalties backs. They put out some sort of greatest hits album that had 15 songs, and the Phoenix Horns guys got paid a fifth of a percentage point on the royalties.
I read about this. It was a live album.
The management group comes back and is like, hey, guys, you're only on 5 of those 15 songs. So tell you what, we're going to take some of that money back. And then the judge is just like, listen, we're going to call it square right now. And for the rest of the life of the album, you guys don't get shit. But you get to keep the money that you already made. So.
I did read about that, and I thought, wow, I like the fact that the judge came back and said, okay, Phil and Genesis, you guys are worth, however much you're worth. And the Phoenix Horns, at a fifth of a percentage, are
getting shot by the cops. Fucking LA.
Yeah, right. So I heard that, and I read that, and I thought that was a pretty good outcome for those guys. Or at least it seemed like a reasonable outcome for those guys.
Those fucking guys, those lawyers at those management companies, man, they got they know their shit. Like, wait a second, hold on.
Keep your hand out of my pocket.
Yeah, because the album was already like 7 or 8 years old. They were like looking around, going through their files, looking for somebody to sue, I guess. Okay, all right, let's get into the list here. Here's I got my fifth song on my list.
Hit me.
Is "Take Me Home." I love that, like the intro again. He's got that weird percussion thing introing the song, and then the organs come in, and he's always he's a good lyricist. And in this instance, he's obviously talking about his travels around the world and the comforts of home, which I mean, Phil Collins, I think, is just looking for some place to lay his head where he doesn't have to get sued or divorced. I think, at this point.
And wow, did he get soaked?
Oh man!
I mean, what I read was his, and I don't know that his first wife took him for anything. If she did, I didn't see it. But wife number 2 and wife number 3 pulled just shy of 50 million pounds out of him. Now, at an exchange rate of about $1.75 to $2 to the pound. That's a shit ton of money. Just a shit ton of money.
Through the teeth. The teeth. No wonder he was such a fucking hardworking guy. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, this he goes from 1980. I'm gonna read this for you. I'm gonna take a little time here. 2 minutes. Okay?
Please do.
All right. Here's Phil Collins' life. All right. In 1980, Genesis releases Duke. Okay. And then in February, so they tour on Duke. And in February of 81, he releases solo album Face Value. Okay? And then in 1981, in September, they release Abacab Genesis. In 1982, early in 1982, he plays drums on the Robert Plant's first solo album. Then in November of 82, he does his second solo album.
Principle of Moments.
In February of 83, he does drums on Plant's second album.
Oh, I thought that's what you were referring to. Principle of Moments, yeah.
No. In November of 82, he does his own second solo album. I think it was No Jacket Required or whatever it was. In February of 83, he does drums on Plant's second solo album. And he also then produced Adam Ant's Strip album. All of it. In May of 83, they released Genesis. In 84, he does Against All Odds and tours on that song alone. In 84, he also does Easy Lover with Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind & Fire. And he plays drums on Clapton's solo album. And he does Band-Aid, the Feed the World thing. Right. In 1985, he does 1985 is No Jacket Required. That's his third solo album. And then he plays Live Aid, where not only does he play his own set of music in London, he takes the Concorde over to America and plays drums for Led Zeppelin in Philadelphia,
Unbelievable.
which he talked shit on Led Zeppelin, saying those
Yes.
guys weren't fucking prepared.
Yeah, they complained about him not knowing the song, and he came back and said they weren't prepared.
Right. He's like, Jimmy Page didn't know the song. He's like, I don't know who to believe. I'm going with Phil on this because that is quite a fucking. I mean, that's a hell of a 5 years. Jesus Christ.
He's got to be the busiest man in show business around this time, and not only busy, but churning out. He has more U.S. top 40 singles than any other artist in the 80s. You're talking about Michael Jackson. You're talking about McCartney. You're talking about, the other big players from that time. He has more top 40 singles in the U.S. than any other artist in the 80s. That's incredible.
He has 7 number ones in the 80s. That's number 2 to Michael Jackson.
Wow.
That's fucking crazy. 7 number ones. And you're talking about a decade with Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson at the height of his power, everybody there. I mean, it's jam packed, and this guy walks away with 7 number ones. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, and he also produced and played drums on "No One Is to Blame," one of my faves.
That's
Howard
right.
Jones's. Yeah,
That's right. He did some stuff for Thin Lizzy and ABBA as well.
it's like,
If you really want to get into the weeds.
So I kind of get why he gets divorced, right? Like, if you're married to Phil Collins, like, you're never seeing the guy ever.
So here's something else that I heard about that dispute between him and Zeppelin, and he has disputes with a few other people too. Apparently, the fellas from Oasis, the Gallagher brothers, they've had a beef going with this guy for a while. Roger Waters threw shade at him. So did David Bowie.
A buddy of mine told me he's a big Noel Gallagher fan, and he said Noel Gallagher was doing a question and answer, and a young kid asked him a question. It's like, "What's your favorite fossil?" And he looks at the kid and he's like, "Phil Collins."
It's a hell of an answer. Well, so this guy's got all this work, and he goes through these 3 divorces. He's been divorced 3 times, 2 of which took him for somewhere between $75 and $100 million. Yeah, ouch. That's a gut punch of all gut punches. With the exception of Bezos and what he just got soaked for. But
Well, listen.
he can afford it. So as I was looking at some of the Phil stuff, and I wondered, okay, you've got this guy who's gone into a marriage, gets divorced, goes into a second one, gets divorced and pays for it, goes into a third one, gets divorced and pays even more. Is this a Phil thing? Is it because he's constantly busy? And then I observed something as I was looking through his stuff. Of his solo albums, 9, so he's got 11 solo albums. 9 of those album covers are of his face.
Well,
Is there an ego thing going here that maybe Phil's a
think?
little full of himself?
I mean, it's not like he's Brad Pitt. I don't know how
he's
many
not.
people, but he's always been very self-effacing. But it's also one of those things of like, the ones that are self-effacing are also the ones that are most ego-driven, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it seems like they say Phil Collins is the nicest man in show business. I don't know if that's tongue-in-cheek or not, to be quite honest with you.
It could very well be. I mean, you create an album called Face Value. That makes perfect sense. Then you
put your
create an
face
album
on it.
called Hello, I Must Be Going, and it still has your face on it. Maybe we're talking about somebody who's a little full of himself, and perhaps that's come into play relative to these marriages. I don't know.
All right, let's wrap up his personal life here, because just recently, just in the news in August, though the third wife that he divorced in 2006, they decided that they were going to reconcile, and so he moved into this mega mansion down in Miami.
I'm sure it's a beautiful home.
Yeah, and so she's living there. They're not married, and she's living there with the 2 sons that they have in that marriage. Then she goes ahead and gets married without telling Phil Collins, and then moves the new husband into the mansion with them. He's living off in Switzerland now, but she's living in his mega mansion, like with the new husband, and didn't bother to tell Phil. And so Phil went to the judge and said, "Hey, get him out of here. I want him evicted." And then she starts spreading a bunch of shit, like he's for the you don't know how bad of a person Phil Collins is. He hasn't shaved or brushed his teeth for a year.
Ouch.
Yeah, and
Ouch.
the judge admonished her and said, "Stop spreading those type of personal details about Phil Collins or whatever. But I mean, this is still going on. This is still going on. Jesus Christ,
Unbelievable.
Anyhow, we're gonna lay off the guy. Well, we already laid into his personal life. So anyhow,
I don't
know what to say about him. It's like, so I was watching a video of him doing. It was on YouTube, they have like a promotional video. It's like an hour long of him putting together this show for I want to say it was 94. So it was one of his last solo kind of go-arounds before he hit the Disney big time. And it's just him, and he's got this, probably 20 musicians behind him, singers and backup singers and the horn machine. He's in everybody's business. And that's not to say a bad way. He's like, they show him cuts like with him collaborating with every single, the guy who plays the alto sax, the guy who plays the trumpet, the guy who plays the keyboards, the two drummers that he has, the bassist, the guitarist, and they're all professional and very competent musicians. And he's just like kind of talking with them. He's like, all right, on this, on beats 4 in this song, this is what I want. Okay, all right. He was very. When I saw Michael Jackson's "This Is It." When Michael Jackson took you behind the scenes of putting on his show, it was that level of technical detail. Like he's just that's genius level stuff. Yeah, he's just like genius level. Like on the 8th beat, this is what has to happen, and everybody's like, "Yes, sir, you got it." And it was really interesting to see him and Michael Jackson were very, very similar in the way they worked.
All right, my number 5. We've heard yours. Mine is "Turn It On Again." Turn It On Again is a Genesis song. Did you say that's your number 3?
That's my number 3, yeah.
Outstanding. A song about a man who does nothing but watch TV. believes who he sees on TV are his friends. This song, there's something, and if you've heard our Rush episode, I'm a fan of syncopation and kind of offbeat music. So if you know anything about time signature, this song has a 13/8 time signature. So a standard time signature is like a 4/4 time signature, which means that there are 4 quarter notes per bar. This is a 13/8 time signature, which means there are 13/8 notes per bar, and that's an offset number. And you can hear it when the song's playing. You're like, there's something that's just a little off. And Collins said, whenever they played this song live, the audience would start dancing and then immediately looked like they were sick or that they were having a seizure or something, because the audience would get the beat going and then it would hit that 13th beat and then start the next phrase. And you couldn't dance to it, but people wanted to dance to it because it's a live show and people are jumping around. But I always liked this song. I thought that slight little Asian twist they drop into the song after the choruses, I always thought that was cool. Great use of keyboards. They're very subtle, but they're driving. There's no guitars in it.
Very little. There are very few guitars in any Genesis song.
No, there really aren't.
It's all Phil.
This song and this I found was interesting. So this song didn't reach the top 40 in the U.S. most places except for Chicago. It was number 31 on WLS. And maybe that's why I remember this song so well, is because we were drowned in it at a certain age, and like a lot of Genesis and a lot of Phil songs, he got a ton of radio play with both bands. This was no exception.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't "Turn It On" the tagline for WLS radio?
It may have been.
I seem to remember that. Anyhow, yeah, I do remember getting drowned by this song. But like I said, it's my number 3. It's and what you kind of described about the time signature is probably the reason why I liked it so much, because it's such a different type of feel to the song. He's he comes in on his lyrics like off the beats, and that's kind of odd, but it works really well, especially in the song. And the lyrics also are they're great. Just another face that I know from a TV show. And if you go into like Reddit and like read about what people have attributed these lyrics to, like I wouldn't suggest it for too long, because you come away thinking that it's a song about split personalities and schizophrenia, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I don't need to get that deep into it, but I think that you're right. It's just like people just watching TV, and it's like, oh, you're just this is my family. These are my friends.
I have known you for so very long. I feel you like a friend. Can I meet you another day and we'll fly away?
And that's where it gets into, it gets into like, with the woman, can I touch you for, it's like, okay. I try not to dig in. Yeah, it gets a little creepy on those lyrics, but you know what? That's when I kind of hum the words. Actually, I like to touch.
I like to touch. All right, your number 4.
So my number 4 is another strange beat one, and it's again not one of those songs that you could dance to, and it's just kind of off. It's not. I don't even know if it charted, but it's off of the Abacab album, and it's "Man on a Corner."
This is my number 3.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just really it's in the same vein as his big one, the Miami Vice song.
Oh, In the Air Tonight?
In the Air Tonight. It's in the exact same vein. Like, he must have been in the same headspace when he wrote this song as that one, because it's like kind of, it's creepy, it's eerie, it's, it plods along. Yeah, and it's like, and again, like, this is not my words. This is from your internet detritus. It's, some people think that the man on the corner that he's talking about is Jesus.
Really? I never got a religious sort of feel from this song. Is he saying that the fact that he's lonely is that people have forgotten about religion, or that...
Yeah, there's some crazy fuckers on the internet, if you've heard of that before, Yeah, it's like, there's the lonely man there in the corner, what he's waiting for, nobody knows. It's like, and somebody said, oh, that's a parable for Jesus and Christianity.
Everything could be a parable for Jesus.
It's like, God damn it,
Nick, come to the light.
I need to get off the internet.
I thought this was a great song for a variety of reasons. He uses a drum machine here, which is unique for him, because he's a drummer, a left-handed drummer, I might add, and was not trained initially as a drummer. He actually started as a child actor. That was his first line of training, and then moved on to music and played drums from a very young age. Moved into child acting, and then went on and kind of came back into playing the drums. The interesting part to me about this song is that he starts it with a drum machine and keeps it running throughout the entire song, and he brings the real drums in at the bridge about halfway through. But it has just that unique kind of feel with that drum machine, and as the song starts, you get that sort of off-rhythm entry of the keyboards. It's a great tune. Again, great lyrics too.
The synth is doing something strange too. When he's singing into the bridge, like, the synth is almost like a slide synth almost. It's before the time that synthesizers could do that, could bend notes, because now you can bend notes with the synth. But I don't know in what is it, 1981 that you could do that. So I don't know how they got that sound. And it's definitely, I don't think it's Rutherford playing his guitar through an effects pedal. It just doesn't seem like that. I don't even know what Rutherford is doing in the band.
You know what blows me away about this band is that they're a trio. This is 3 dudes, and they are putting out an amazing amount of sound and an amazing amount of just unique sort of sounds.
Banks has got that fortress of keyboards behind. He sits behind. He had like 12 of them programmed to do other things. And Phil could do, he could do the out in the front man, in the spotlight. He could also do the drum machine. He could do the drums. He could do it all. And again, like, there's not a lot of guitars in any of Genesis stuff. And I couldn't even put my finger on one Genesis guitar solo. I was like, oh yeah, that was
no, I agree.
Even in fucking Mike and the Mechanics, like, there's only really one song that I know of his, and it's him plucking, like, doing a little chicken plucking on it. I don't like it. I don't think that he needs to be there.
I'm not sure exactly what he's bringing to the table either. I suspect it's a lot of sound that you wouldn't identify as coming from him, but nonetheless, without him, it would be weird. I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
This is the man on the corner. Collins has taken a little flack for a variety of reasons. And I think a lot of it has to do with the ubiquitous nature of Phil Collins, right? He was everywhere. In the late 70s, the 80s, the 90s, getting into movies. You just couldn't get away from Phil Collins and what he was doing. And I think that made him a target, an easy target, kind of low-hanging fruit for detractors. The Gallaghers panned him, as we talked about.
Duke and Abacab were, good standalone, not rock albums, but like prog albums. And then after that, when he starts his solo career, it's like the solo career and Genesis's work are like they all run into one. Like their songs are very, very similar. Like when I made my list, I'm like, holy shit, I've got a lot of songs here. And then I started listening to the songs to get a feel back for them. I'm like, they're kind of all the same.
Yeah, they have a very similar vein that runs through them.
Yeah. Well, he said it himself. He's like, it's the reason for all my success in songwriting is my first divorce.
And you can hear the influence on that album for sure.
Yeah.
And, as I looked through his stuff, I didn't go through the really early Genesis stuff. It was just, it was a little too out there for me. And then I got into the sort of late 70s Genesis. I think about as early as I went back was Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
And that's the crazy thing about this band. Peter Gabriel was in this fucking band, and he's like, all right, guys, I'm going to go solo. And they're like, Phil Collins is like, all right, that's cool.
I'm going to run with this puppy now. Yeah, we're gonna take this thing and we're gonna make it a money machine. Hey, thanks for leaving, by the way.
Right, it's like Peter Gabriel leaves the door is just swinging closed, and Phil Collins is like, all right, motherfuckers, this is my band now. This is how it's going to go, and these are the songs that we're going to record. And Peter Gabriel, it's like you keep on thinking, it's like, oh shit, that's right. He started the band, right? He was there before Phil was.
Yeah. So you look at like Phil's solo stuff. After, I want to say it was about his fifth album, his first four albums had a little grittiness to them, influenced by these broken relationships. And then he gets in later on, and once I got to the fifth album, I didn't recognize anything. And all of it, absolutely all of it, sounded like it should be played on Light FM. It just had that same vein running through every song that you were like, okay, I've had enough. I'm good.
Against All Odds, Easy Lover, One More Night, all those. It's like if Bill Cosby's sweater could sing a song, like this is what it would sound like. For sure. Like it's all Light FM stuff,
Yeah, one of the things, getting back to this thing that he got panned for on Man on the Corner, and actually it wasn't Man on the Corner. He got panned for it on Another Day in Paradise. Ugh. And I don't know if this is just the the naysayers taking pot shots at him or not. But Another Day in Paradise is about homelessness. And the sort of face value meaning of the song Man on the Corner is also about homelessness. Right. Looking everywhere at no one. He sees everything and nothing at all. When he shouts, nobody listens. Where he leads, no one will go. Nobody knows him, nobody cares, right? It's pretty I like the Jesus aspect. Jesus. I'm telling you.
No, you're right, and it's he was woke before he was before anybody else.
And he took shit for this. Because they said, well, you've written about this, but you haven't done anything about it, which I thought was a little shallow in terms of the critics saying, you've sung about this issue, but you haven't solved the issue. Well, okay.
And critics will write about him not solving the issue while not solving the issue. That's
right. It's so. All right, that is my number 5, or was it your number 5?
That was my number 4, and my number 3 was Turn It On Again. Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is Inside Out.
Yeah, it doesn't do it for me, man.
I like the big drums at the start of this, and then they cut back to this sort of light guitar, sort of funk riff, and the drums just do these snare rim shots during the verses, and then they come back into the chorus, and it's back to the big drums and keys and vocals, and everything's big, and planted right in the middle of this thing is a pure 80s saxophone solo. You listen to this and you are in the middle of a Michael Douglas movie. You feel like Kathleen Turner's going to come walking around the corner in a second. And not, Kathleen Big, I've been smoking for...
Yeah, smoking hot Kathleen Turner.
Yeah, smoking hot, not I've been smoking for 50 years, Kathleen.
not I am on fire.
Yes, and eating, 90% of my diet is mashed potatoes, Kathleen. No, this is good. Hot Kathleen 80s Turner.
Just a smoky sax solo coming through for you.
Yeah, right. And he's got a little bit of his divorce in this, right? He's got a line that says, "I won't lose sight of all the things I'm looking for. They're coming for me, and they're coming to me, and I'm taking what's mine." Look, he's starting to get a little pissed off about these divorces.
Listen, of all my notes here, all these fucking songs you're looking at, like 90% of them are about him, and his fucked up life. Like him bitching about his life. Like I wonder what Tony Banks is thinking. He's like, God, another one of these, Phil? I mean, haven't
Jesus
we heard
Christ,
it
do
all?
we have to sing about your fucking love life again?
Get over it, man. And I guess
Right.
that's why, you get divorced 3 times in a row. Like, can I
Absolutely.
go back to the sax fucking solo? Who exactly do we blame for the sax solos? There was a rash of them all the way through the 80s. Now,
Terrible.
who the fuck do we blame for that?
I don't know. Wham started a song with it. It happens to be my son's ringtone.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's rough.
We have to talk.
It's rough living in our house.
Rough times in the McMillan household. I don't know what to do about Sean. His ring. Have you heard his ringtone? Oh, that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was smack dab in the middle of the 80s, that song, that Careless Whisper song. But, I mean, I want to track. Maybe we can do a deep dive on that. But I have my suspicions that it's fucking Bruce Springsteen and that goddamn East Street Band of his.
Could be. I forget what that guy's name was. Clarence something.
Clarence Clemens.
Clarence Clemens. I was going to say, it's not Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
That's
It's
not
like,
right.
no, that's it. That would be funny. It's like, oh, Clarence can do it. Let's get a Clarence Clemens type to do a sax solo for us. No, assholes. He only belongs to the one band. Like, I don't want to hear it in my INXS songs.
I am not a giant fan of the saxophone in pop music or any music, with the exception of Pink Floyd. Those guys could turn a saxophone into something totally different
Fine.
than what you hear in this stuff. But we are going to talk about that on another episode, I'm sure.
Indeed. But the brass section got kicked off the rock stage as soon as the guitar got electrified. Get the fuck out. We don't need your noise anymore.
All right, so we have brought ourselves through the first 4 rounds, if you include the honorable mention, because we both pinched each other's number 3s. And that brings us to a little segment that we like to call Masturbatory Fantasies. Now, if you haven't heard the Rush episode, I encourage you to listen to the Rush podcast to understand exactly what that name means. But
It's hard to
instead of
say.
boring people,
Listen to Rush.
that's I know you're going to have to be forced to listen to us talk about Rush, but the explanation for that category name is in that podcast. This category is about which album you would want to see toured live, and then pick 2 more bands and the album that they would be touring if you were going to see 3 bands in one night. And I will start it this time, and I'm going to go with the Hello, I Must Be Going tour from Phil. For a few reasons, which I don't want to divulge just yet because I may uncover some of my future picks. Along with the Police touring Synchronicity.
All right.
And Supertramp doing Breakfast in America.
Ooh, oh, nice one. Yeah. Good bill.
Thank you.
Good bill. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's gonna be tough to beat. Yeah, so I think I would only want to see them touring their Abacab album because you get Abacab and Duke, and that's really all I care to listen to from these guys at all.
I agree.
And I think that you'll also get his solo song. I can't In the Air Tonight. I think that was also around that time too, right around.
I can't remember if that came out. I think that came out after Abacab. You might miss it. And that's one of the reasons I did pick Hello, I Must Be Going, because you'd be able to at least hear that song and a couple others that.
Yeah,
that
well, I
play
can
a
miss
lot.
that song too. Yeah, I could miss that song.
Oh,
but
it's
I really
been
don't.
horribly overplayed.
I don't care for it. I'd probably like to take a little sip of In Excess from the Listen Like Thieves tour,
Oh, nice.
and Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Excellent.
Yeah, right after.
They would have been incredible to see live.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding
How
me?
many dudes are on stage for an Earth, Wind, and Fire show? A dozen?
There's like 12 of them. Yeah. I mean, there's like 4 guys in the horn section, and then, they had four singers. I mean, talk
it'd be
about
huge.
a wall of sound. Yeah, really. And it really entertaining. So, yep. Okay. Good deal. And yeah, Phil Collins and Genesis could open for those two bands. While I'm getting my cigarettes and my foot-long hot dog.
A
'Cause I
loaded
was smoking
foot-long
back
hot
then.
dog.
Yeah, for sure. I was a 12-year-old smoking back then, so. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
All right, that brings us to our number 2s. Now, I've already coughed up my number 2, which was Abacab, so that gives us your number 2. What do you got?
Yeah, so my number 2, actually, it goes the latest into their career, and it's off the Invisible Touch album, which I actually really like the Invisible Touch album, but only because it's like kind of gumball-y and like pop rock type stuff. But Throwing It All the Way is just it's a great song, and that song is, in particular, that specific song is the one that he said, like, yeah, that's the first marriage. It's like without my first marriage, we wouldn't have Invisible Touch as an album.
I like that song.
Great song.
And that falls
Great
under
video too.
everything that we've talked about. I can say I like that song. And
Yeah.
when I was prepping for this pod, I had a list of the Phil songs that I liked. They weren't necessarily all top 5, and I had a list of the Genesis songs I liked, and again, not necessarily all top 5. I had 30 songs.
Yeah, oh
Like
yeah.
Probably 8 or 10 Phil songs and 20 to 25 Genesis songs. By far, Genesis outweighed Phil for me, without a doubt.
Yeah, I was about 2-to-1 on that ratio,
Yeah.
Genesis over Phil, but
Yep.
still, like a lot of solid music, and then when you get through it, it's like, oh, there's like tour, like Phil Collins' songs, like to me, like at the end, just seem kind of like all the same.
Yes.
But anyhow, Throwing It All the Way is a good tune. I think the reason why I like it so much is the video is good because it's a video that kind of goes through their behind the scenes of like what it's like being on the road with Genesis, and like the stage crew putting up they played stadiums, gigantic stadiums, giant stadium, veteran stadium. You got 60,000-70,000 people, which huge stages for fucking Genesis. I mean, again, like, I don't know if Rush played in gigantic stadia like that, but like Genesis did, like 3 guys on a stage at that small. Man, that's fucking crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The amount of success is just nuts, and I can't imagine what that's like. And I wonder, like, I mean, when I've played live, I think the biggest crowd I played to was maybe 30 people or 50 people, maybe 60. I don't remember, but it wasn't hundreds, and it certainly wasn't 70,000.
crazy,
I wonder if there's a point at which the crowd gets so big that it doesn't matter if it's 20,000 or it's 80,000. It all kind of feels the same. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I suspect I'll never find out unless my music career takes an amazing U-turn.
Imagine having an Invisible Touch tour shirt.
I think about some of those tour shirts that I would buy, because you always bought a tour shirt. They were always printed on the worst fucking cotton possible.
Right.
You could see through it. You could read a newspaper through
threadbare
those
right
T-shirts. I wonder if, like, what it'd be like to see one of those again and pull it out and be like, holy crap, my Rush, Hold Your Fire tour shirt or whatever.
You know who's got them all? Tony's got them. He's got every goddamn concert shirt he ever had, and that motherfucker's got a lot of them.
No, I bet he does.
Oh,
I bet he
yes.
does.
They're all vacuum packed away, too.
So that is number 2. That brings us to our category, what is your most hated song?
Oh, easy. Can I go, please?
Please.
Yeah. Hold On My Heart. Just saying the fucking words makes me want to tear my eyeballs out.
I had that as a potential for mine as well. It's just it's sleepy, it's sappy, it's oh good lord, please just get out
really,
of it.
and it came out at the time. It's like, all right, we get it.
Yeah.
You're unlucky in love. The Heartbreak Kid coming back for another
Right.
fucking
200
another
million.
biographical story. But yeah, and it'll go gold overnight.
Yeah. I had You Can't Hurry Love. I thought this song was just, and I don't know if it was too much radio play. Was it too sing-songy? Does it remind me of being at the Elm Roller Rink? I don't know, but it just had this sort of lilty kind of feel that it grates on me whenever I hear it. So That was my number one in the shitter pick, was You Can't Hurry Love.
There's a couple of there's a couple of cringy tunes that he put out, but
Absolutely.
Listen,
what are you gonna do?
bring us down to our number one here.
The number one.
Yeah, for me, going back to their early career without Peter Gabriel, off the Duke album, Misunderstanding.
Love that tune. Love that tune.
Great, because I believe that I think I found that song, or I refound that song right around the time that I was also being introduced to the notions of heartache and mistrust and pain. So the Misunderstanding really goes. It's a nice shot in a beer when that's the chaser for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because like he's like stalking his whoever ex-lover or whoever, I'm sure one of his wives, and the line where he was just leaving, I was like, oh, gotcha, yeah, I think I know what that's all about.
All right, my number one. This was probably the peak of Angry Phil. This is off one of his solo albums. I think it's Hello, I Must Be Going. He was pissed. He was 170 pounds of pissed off British man.
Yeah, one angry chip.
It is I Don't Care Anymore. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
And he sings about it, right? The lyrics dig into that. Get out of my way, let me by. I've got better things to do with my time. You listening? I don't care no more. This dude is pissed. I
mean, listen, I appreciate it. I like it. I mean, at least, you know where you stand with Phil. His lyrics are pretty out there.
And he really, so he brings, and you hear this a lot through his albums. He uses this effect called gated reverb. And he uses it a lot on his drums, and he does it a lot here. It starts out with nothing but toms. Like this is a unique structure for a rock song, whether it's pop or hard rock. Or by God, these guys were the farthest thing from hard rock. But even progressive rock, they don't really avoid the snare. He doesn't play a snare until halfway through the song.
Right.
And that's just really rare. You've got these toms with these sort of gated reverb effect on them. You've got these sort of way in the background wailing guitar riffs, but they're really, really quiet. And they add this texture to it. This was his first Grammy nomination, and he lost to Beat It.
Ooh, yeah. Tough beat.
You're coming up against a hell of an opposing team when you're going up against Beat It. So,
yeah.
There's actually, as I was looking through this, I found that there is a heavy metal cover by a band called Hell Yeah. Great name for a metal band, by the way.
Of course, yeah.
Hell Yeah is, and I don't know if he was part of the band or if he was just on this song, but it's got Dimebag Darrell from Pantera, who, if you don't know, was murdered by a fan on stage while he was shot. The fan jumped up on stage with a gun and shot him.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, further research uncovered this. He was buried in a Kiss casket, and yes, that's casket spelled with a K.
Of course he was.
And he was buried with Eddie Van Halen's guitar that is pictured on the back of Van Halen 2.
Oh.
Just a little side note on Dimebag Darrell. I don't know anything about Pantera otherwise, but that I uncovered these little nuggets as I was nosing around. So
Dimebag was real deal, man. I wonder if he was also buried with the Kiss urinal cakes.
I'm sure he was. All right, so that brings us to a new segment we're going to call the Best 4 Seconds. The Best 4 Seconds is a 4-second segment out of any of the songs that the artist has played that you think are the best.
There's like the coolest parts. You might miss them, but you like when you point them out, you're like, oh yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, and for me, this one was instant and unequivocal. It's the drum breakdown on Air Tonight. Because it is so iconic of a part of a song for this band. And it's nothing fantastic. It's nothing fancy. It's just ba-dum, 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 boom, boom.
Just 10 beats.
10 beats, all you need.
That's what I always say that. Well, even Taylor Hawkins, so Taylor Hawkins, and, I think he has said, several times, like, Phil Collins is one of the greatest rock drummers ever. I'll take his word for it. He's on, what is it, Drummer Magazine. Like, he's on, like, all of their top 10 lists as far as rock drummers goes. And there's nothing to that riff that you're talking about, but nope. It's almost ironic that somebody who's thought of as one of the greatest rock drummers ever to be known for basically that, which is 10 beats, and pretty much you could teach a fifth grader how to do that. But there it is. Everybody knows what it is.
Absolutely. What you got?
I got a couple. I'm not a big fan of the song because I can't get into the whole prog thing. It's way too proggy. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, but when they break it down and the chorus comes in, and I think that's Gabriel singing that on Broadway backup. Lies down. I like that. I think I like that because I like Gabriel's voice. And then there's another like cool 4 seconds, like the intro, the intro to Turn It On Again. Some reason, and that's Rutherford, right? It's just one note, just kind of plucking it, and then the bass of Tony Banks' synth comes in. It builds, right? And then it builds, and then they have the crouch. It's I like that. That's cool.
Completely agree. And I think this is going to be a real brief sort of conversation. Who is the MVP of this band?
Oh, there's no question. It's the first wife.
Absolutely, she took it to the end zone for Phil.
Oh fuck
that's
yeah!
a great point. I think it's a great point. I mean, obviously, the easy obvious answer here is Phil Collins. He brings more to the table than Banks or Rutherford or frankly Gabriel. Although in Gabriel's defense, I really didn't nose around a whole lot in those albums, but. You're right. The former wives here brought a hell of a lot to the table in terms of material and edge and anger and.
Well, here's the one thing. I'm not so sure about the wife number 2, and wife number 3 was later in his career that he was married to her from 99 to 2006. Wife number 2 had him from 84 to 96, and those were like the salad days, right? Those were when he was very poppy and he was doing all of his, it's kind of more his lighthearted, like light FM stuff. That first wife must have done a fucking number on him or some shit because she triggered something in his brain. Because when they divorced in 1980, you get Duke, Face Value, Abacab, you get a lot of his best stuff. And it's all that stuff that's off kilter or really angry or it's like
100%.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say that she must have done a number on him. That relationship really fucked with his head. However it worked out or however it played, I'm sure it had a lot to do with him being as much as he was on the road or recording or whatever, just an asshole. I don't know. It's just that I think that's wife number 1. Is the MVP. Without her, I don't know if you have Genesis or Phil.
Great point. You talk about these marriages. He had a few kids with
each one,
with all the women.
Yeah,
and I think they some of them. One of them might have gone into either acting or movies. But I couldn't tell you anything about these kids unless I looked it up. And that's not always uncommon. But you think about like. Will Smith, you knew his daughter put out a song, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever that was. It was a stupid song. But
his kids are in the business. Yeah.
They have not been in the spotlight the way you see some of the others in the spotlight. And I don't know if that's protection from Phil or protection from the wives or both. Just kind of interesting that you got a guy that's as big as Phil Collins was, and I guess to some degree still is, and you don't really know that much about him except for the fact that he got soaked on these 3 marriages.
But he's still worth like $200 million. But because I think that what the main takeaway from all of this is that as much as people talk about the 80s and 80s music and how, how many contours there are to it, and all the cultural context that comes into the difference, the differentiation of musical tastes and talents during the 80s, and that's why it's so popular. Phil Collins is a bona fide superstar.
Absolutely.
Amongst all of the superstars, right? There's not many, and he's one of them. And just by looking at him, you're like, wow. It's just so it's so, I guess, 80s, so ironic of the times, of Prince and Madonna and Michael Jackson, and you got all these people, even Boy George and George Michael, and all these people are just flamboyantly out there, and here you got a guy who looks like he's fucking ordering a half a pound of bologna at the deli mart is a superstar and puts out all of this music that is stood the test of time. Bravo, Phil.
All right, so the Sisters of Mercy were this goofy industrial goth.
Great band.
I don't know exactly how to describe the music.
One song.
Yeah, they had all of 2 or 3 songs that I listened to. And I got Nick into at least one of those songs, and the song is called I Want More. And it's a tirade-y kind of, well, here's a segment. So,
such a great tune.
This segment is called The Sisters of Mercy. And the question is, do you want more? Do you want more of Phil Collins? Do you want more of Genesis? Do you want more of both? Or are you done? Do you want to create a playlist with these guys? Are you going to seek them out further? What do you think?
I don't want any more Phil Collins solo shit. I mean, looking at my list, I've got 4 of my top 5 are from 2 albums.
Mine, all 3. Let's see here. Out of my tops, if you include the honorable mention, 2 of them were Phil, and I think the rest of them were off of Abacab.
I don't know. I don't think I need any. I know I don't need any more Phil. And Genesis is a nice. They're when you have your own playlist going, and then you have all your music, and then all of a sudden Throwing It All the Way comes up. You're like, oh yeah, this is a great tune. I'm not going after more of this shit. So no,
I'm with you. I don't need any more Phil in my life. The Genesis stuff was a fun walk down memory lane.
Yeah.
I may add 1 or 2 songs, possibly, to my overall musical playlist, but I certainly wouldn't create a set list only for Genesis or for Phil.
Oh, God.
That's a little too much. You do have this similar vein that kind of runs through it all, that you can only kind of take it in small doses. And thanks to this podcast, I've had it going through my head now for a week. I need to replace it with something else, because frankly, it's enough. It's just enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to take a break from Phil Collins and Genesis too. But thank you all for listening once again. We really enjoy doing this podcast for you guys, and hopefully we keep on creating content for you that you guys come back for. So until next time, we bid you a fond farewell and adieu.